But that song, there's a line in that song that really struck me. It said, in death and in life, I'm confident in the power of Jesus' love. But if we are so confident and we sing that with such passion that we're confident about the love of Jesus and the love of Christ that can get us through anything, that's never going to run out, it's never going to leave us, it's never going to fail, then why do we have giants in our life that we can't defeat? Why do we have these huge things that we just can't get over? We're going to talk about that this weekend. So let me paint the picture here. So, in the Old Testament, there's a story about David and Goliath. And I'm sure you've been to VBSs and different, all sorts of things where you talk about David and Goliath. He gets this little stone and he throws it at Goliath and he hits him in the head, knocks him out, and all that stuff. But let me give you a little backstory here. For 42 days, that's basically from New Year's Day to President's Day. Okay? 6 weeks. New Year's Day to President's Day. The army of the Lord, the Israelites, were on a hill. There was a valley and another hill. And over here were the Philistines. Okay? Back then, people were about 5 foot tall. Okay? We're evolving. Yes, there is some evolution, but we are evolving. We're getting taller. I'm 5'8", which back in the day used to be normal for guys. Now it's like 5'10", 5'11", whatever. So think about this. Like 8 inches, like this tall is how tall the Israelites were. 5 foot tall. Philistines were about the same. Well, the Philistines had this dude named Goliath. Okay? This dude was 9 foot 9 inches tall. That basketball hoop is probably about that since it's bent down. Okay? That's how tall this dude was. He was gnarly. I mean, he was like, not like gnarly. He didn't ride surfboards and stuff. He was too big. He was something. This dude was a grizzled, like, think about this. His sword weighed 100 pounds. Most people in here can't lift 100 pounds, let alone do this and kill people with it, right? So, 100 pounds. His shield, he had a dude, the shield was so big, he had a special dude just to carry his shield for him. Because he couldn't, it was just too much.
If it was too much for him, why did he get a little dude to carry it?
Maybe there were 6 little dudes, I don't know. So, anyway, this 9 foot 9, basically 10 foot tall dude, he came from, there was a people back then that were, like all of them were this big. So they get this guy, and he comes down in the valley every day from New Year's Day to President's Day, 42 days. And he says, hey, and it's, because he's not going to have a voice like, hey y'all, this is fine. That's not his voice, right? So his voice is a big booming voice. So here's the deal, Israelites. Right. Here's the deal, Israelites. Let's just end this. So, I'm the best that we've got. You send out the best you've got. We'll fight. Whoever wins, the other side will lose. And they will become the other people's slaves. Okay? 42 straight days. This giant comes to the valley and screams this across to the other people. These people are like, that guy's twice the size of me. His head is like a freaking elephant. He's ginormous. And, like, he will just destroy this little, even King Saul was the tallest, he was the king of the Israelites. He was like maybe 6 foot tall. He still had 4 more feet on top of the tallest guy that they had. And so he's yelling insults at him, and Saul looks at his people and is like, oh, is he out there again? Yeah, I hear him. So we got nobody who wants to do that? So you told them, right, that like they can have like all the riches and live in my palace, and they can even marry my daughters, so they'll be like in line to become king, and like if they can just defeat this guy, then they can have whatever they want. Yeah, we told them. And nobody stepped up? Have you seen the dude? No! They're just sitting around the fire, making some soup and stuff. So that's their deal, okay? That's what's been going on with their giant. The book I read to prepare for this was talking about this lady who got mauled by her pet tiger, okay? And they're like, okay, first of all, why would you have a pet tiger? Because they will maul you and kill you, right?
They do.
So here's the thing. When she got the tiger, it was not an adult. Guess what? Just like puppies and kittens are real cute, right? But this tiger was real tiny, real cute, little puffball. And so this little baby tiger was so cute, right? Well, guess what? He ate meat and lots of it, and he got super big, and then he killed her. And many times in our lives, our giants don't just come out of nowhere like a 10-foot Goliath and say, I'm here. Because guess what? We can recognize that. But if we get our little problems that we have, and they start off as cute little fuzzy things that we can kind of control, and then before we know it, they're mauling us to death because they're big, scary, claws, teeth, meat-eating things. And so, we start with our anxieties. Or we start with our anger. Or we start with a little bit of depression because something happened at school or whatever. And we think, oh, it's just a little tiny. We can kind of control it right now. It's just over here in the corner. And it's just being nice and gentle. And I can pet it. And it's nice. It licks my face. You know, it's just fun. Before you know it, that lick in the face is becoming a bite in the face. And our giants are dominating us. Right? Our giants in our life, whatever it may be, you know, some people, I've got a list. I don't know why I ever make this because I never follow. So again, we've got generalized anxiety running rampant in our society today. Think about this rejection, you know, at school, at work, in your homes, rejection. Here's a giant you might not think of. Comfort. We get complacent, which means like not trying to get better because we like where we're at. There's anger, there's addiction, there's all these things. You know, a couple years ago we talked about God is greater. We talked about some of these things. But they don't start off as scary things, because if they were scary, we would run away as fast as we could. But because they start off as little things, our little pets that we try to control, they get out of control. So here comes David. He's about your age. He's a teenager. And he gets to the camp because he's a shepherd, okay? So all his brothers, he's got a bunch of brothers. And a few years back, the high priest came and anointed David with oil and said, you are going to be king someday. Because he came looking and the dude brought his dad brought out all the brothers who were good looking and tall and strong. And he said, nope, I want that one. The youngest one, the smallest one. I want that guy. He's going to be king. God told me this, right? So David is a little dude. And now his brother's like, yeah, you're going to be king. Whatever. So they go off to fight in the army. And David stays back and takes care of sheep. The great king, taking care of one of the dumbest animals. And I mean serious, like they're not intelligent. They will literally eat grass, and if they're not paying attention because they don't have a shepherd, will fall off a cliff and die. While they're eating. Like literally just walk. These are not intelligent beings, and God has put David in charge of these things to teach him some things. Now listen up. I know I'm trying to intermix some humor because it's getting late at night and you're hungry and you're tired, and we just worshiped for like 45 minutes and it was great. But so here's the thing. Hey, shh. Here's the thing. David was watching these sheep in the wilderness. He had to protect these sheep with his sling and with his staff. Not an AR-15. Not a machete. You know, wielding his sword. He didn't do that. Right? He didn't do that. And so David his dad says, hey, David, why don't you take some of this good food? Your brother's been fighting in the army, kind of. They're not just in the army, they're not really fighting because they're scared of the giant. And so he says, why don't you go see your brothers, make sure they're all right, and bring them some stuff from home, some home-baked goods, right? And so David arrives at camp on the 42nd day, 6 weeks in. New Year's Day, President's Day. That's how he gets there in time to hear Goliath, hey, you stupid little Israelites, send out your best, and I'll be the best, and we'll fight, and whoever wins, wins. Not the whole army, just one-on-one. Death match. I will kill you or you will kill me and we'll be done. Seems like a good thing, but he's 10 foot and we're 5 foot. And David says to his brothers, do you hear that? Like, yeah, we've heard it for the last 6 weeks every day. He says, well, who's going to fight him? And they're looking at him like, do you see this guy? Do you see us? Clearly nobody's going to fight him. We're just going to stay here until like he has a heart attack because he's so tall or whatever, but we're not going to fight this guy. And David says, well, I'll do it. 15, 16-year-old David, right? Most 15, 16-year-olds don't look like Mike, okay? Most of them look like Morgan. Hey, listen, I used to be like you. You can get better. So, here's the thing. Most 16-year-old boys are like 5 foot tall, 110 pounds. That was David. He tells his brothers, I'm going to go get this guy. And his brothers are like, you're dumb. This dude will destroy you, and then we will have to be his slaves. He says, I'm going to do it. You watch me. And so they take him to the king. Here's your stupid little brother. He's like, take me to the king. So they take him to the king. And he says, hey, I'm going to go get this guy. And the king's like, it's been 42 days, 6 weeks, month and a half. Nobody else is willing. If you're going to go, at least put on some armor so that when he kills you, it's not quite as bad. Like, at least it will hold all your parts together, and there won't be so many things laying around. And so he tries to get... Now, remember, Saul is 6 foot tall, and David is about 4.5 to 5 feet tall, right? And so he tries to give David his armor and says, here, use mine. Good job, king. Send off a little boy with your armor to do your job. So he starts to put it on. He's like, no. Too big. I'm not going to be able to move. Listen. He says, well, listen. You're a little dude. How are you going to do this? He said, I was back home tending the sheep, and a bear came up and grabbed one of my sheep, and I beat him to death. A bear! That when they stand up are about 12 feet tall. And he, with his hands, killed a bear. He says there was another time this lion came up. I'm like, what wilderness is this? But this bears and lions and tigers. He killed a lion too. He punched it and killed it. Most people couldn't punch a person and kill him, let alone a lion with a giant gun in his head. But guess what? He knew that it wasn't by his own power that he killed these great beasts. He knew that the God of all creation had anointed him and said, I am going to take care of the sheep because you are my chosen one. And he knew that the God of all creation, who killed the bear to protect a stupid little lamb, and who killed the lion to protect a little lamb, could kill this giant to protect his people. Right? So he goes down to the creek. He picks up some stones, some smooth stones, it says. So they weren't even like super jagged, like had been like whittled by like Native Americans and was like in like an arrowhead. This is not, it's just a smooth stone. And he goes down and he picks it up, and Goliath says, come on, guys. Like, I've been telling you for 42 days to send your best. This is your best? He's a little scrawny little dude. And before he could get dude out of his mouth, that dude, by the power of God, took the stone in a sling. Which, have you ever tried to do that? It's kind of hard. It's not like this. It was like... and he throws it at Goliath, and it hits him in the head. Now, I want to tell you this. The forehead, for those of you who haven't played soccer, or been a wrestler or a football player, the forehead is the hardest part of your head. If you have an 18 or 19-month-old like I do, you understand why, because they're constantly hitting their heads on the corner of things. My son is at like treachery at any given moment, and then just escapes narrowly. It's amazing. But so the forehead is the hardest part. It's not like he hit him in the back of the head or the side of the head. I mean, you know, when I was in high school, there was a fight in the hallway, and a kid punched a kid in the temple, and actually he killed him. So that happened, and we're not talking about lying. It's just boom, right in the right spot. He hit him in the forehead with a smooth stone from a creek. Or crick, whatever part of the country. And he killed him. And just to make sure, he walked over, and with the power of Jesus Christ, he picked up that 100-pound sword and walked off his head, brought the head that was this big back to the king and said, "There you go. Giant dead." Here's the thing. You may have a 9-foot or 10-foot giant in your life, or even a lot of them. Like I said, Goliath was not one of a kind. He was part of a whole clan of giants back then. But here's the thing. None of these things that you're dealing with are the match for the creator of the universe that is on your side.
Amen.
Amen.
David knew it. And with confidence said, "I'm going to go take care of this dude. You guys," and he said, the creator of the universe is on our side. We are the Lord's army. The Lord is on our side. Why are you cowering every day for 42 days? You're sitting behind your tent saying, he's still there. Oh. But every day we wake up and look at ourselves in the mirror and think, you're worthless. We think, you can't get over this. We think you can't get over this addiction. We think you can't get over this anxiety. We can't get over anger. Just consumes me, and I can't be anything but angry. It's just who I am. It's how God made me. Garbage. God created you to overcome this stuff. And here's the thing. So many times in VBS, we're told, hey, be David. Be the little dude that kills the big dude with the power of Jesus. Well, guess what? It wasn't David who stood there and killed the lion and the bear and the giant. Jesus himself is who will fight in your place. You don't have to worry about the stones and the sling and trying to be coordinated enough to do this and kill someone. You don't have to worry about that. Because Jesus is the one who will fight your battles for you. It is only Him who can defeat anything. Think about this. The guy gave an example of, and this, be glad that we don't go to this church camp, although you might think differently. He grew up going to church camp on Hilton Head Island. You might think, well, that's great, but it was back in the 70s before it was developed. And so there were literally poisonous snakes everywhere. Cottonmouths, all this stuff. And so he said, at night, they were junior counselors, so they're like 17, 18 years old for the junior week. Which, by the way, in about 2 or 3 years, we're going to start a junior week and have it for 8 to 12-year-olds, and so that's cool coming. But anyways, they were counselors at the junior week, and their job was at night, when they put the kids to bed, to go out with flashlights and find the poisonous snakes and take care of them. By that, I mean this. They would use a baseball bat, pin its head down, right? And yank its body, And then the head of the snake was still there. Well, I don't know if you ever killed a chicken or killed a snake, but when you do that, they still move, right? They're still moving, right? So they're holding it, it's going, but what they would do is, because Hilton Head is an island, they would bury the head in the sand. Here's why. Because even though that snake was dead, if somebody would step on the fang, it still had enough poison in it to be harmful and even deadly. And so what you need to know is this. Jesus on the cross crushed the head of Satan, and he is dead, but he is still deadly.
Yes.
Satan has been defeated. Jesus doesn't have to do that anymore because he took care of that on the cross for you.
Amen, baby. Amen.
But Satan still is in this world. And he still has power in this world. And guess what? That's where we are. And if you get too close to Satan, he can become deadly to you. So just like that snakehead had poison, Satan has poison that he can attack you with. Romans chapter 6, verse 9 says this. Let me turn there in my Bible. If you've got your phones, this is so weird to say, but if you've got your phones, turn there. Because nobody brings Bibles anymore. Romans chapter 6, verse 9 says this. For we know that since Christ was raised from the dead, he cannot die again. Death no longer has mastery over him. The death he died to sin once for all. But the life he lives to God. How cool is it that Jesus doesn't have to keep going back to the cross to defeat Satan? It's not like a once-a-year thing like they used to do at the Passover where they would come and offer their sacrifice. Jesus did it once. So for you, when you're dealing with yourself daily, and you're like, man, how am I going to do this? He says, I've already defeated him. You don't have to live shackled. Ray was talking about taking the chains off. You don't have to live in these shackles and these chains because Jesus has torn them off of you and he has defeated Satan for you. You do not have to live shackled by his abuse and by everything that he can do to you. Now, the cool part is, it says here that he has mastery over death, and the work of defeating hell is done forever. And the power of hell is defeated. Which means you need to start living in victory. Okay? You don't see too many people who will win a championship in whatever. Be like sad for the next 6 months. They're throwing parades. They're shooting off, confetti cannons. They're doing all kinds of stuff because they won. Guess what? You have won. So stop walking around like you've been beaten. Live in victory. That's what Jesus wants us to do. It says in Matthew chapter 28, verse 18, it says, Jesus has all authority. Not some of it, but all of it. Jesus has authority over your anxiety. Jesus has authority over your anger. Jesus has authority over your depression. Jesus has authority over your complacency. He has authority over everything in this world. You know why? Because he made it. He made it. He knows how it works. I have never made a car in my life, and the best thing I can do is put gas and change the oil. I have no idea how all these things work to make my car go. But the guy who built it can fix it. And Jesus built you. He built this world, and he knows how it works. And guess what? He can fix you. How encouraging is that? You don't have to stay broken.
Amen.
You don't have, listen to me, you don't have to be broken anymore.
That's right. Amen.
You can live in the comfort and the peace and the joy and the love and the patience and the kindness that Jesus and His Holy Spirit bring to you.
Ooh.
You don't have to be broken. Now, sometimes brokenness is comfortable. For 42 days, they listened to Goliath and grew to know. When David showed me, he's like, "Do you hear this?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's just Goliath. He's going to be there for a while. Not sure what's going to happen, but he's been there for 6 weeks. I'm sure he'll be there for another 6 weeks, and it'll be fine." And we get comfortable with the giants in our life because, guess what? There are giants. Right? Now, here's the thing. Something I've never really dealt with is anxiety. Right? But I've dealt with anger. And I will take anger every day over anxiety. Because I don't know anything about anxiety, it scares me to death. But anger, I know how to deal with that. I know how to deal with my own stuff. But Jesus says, put it down. I've defeated the giants. You don't have to do it.
Amen.
Is that encouraging or like scary or like what do you think about this? Like, I mean, come on. Relieving. Right. If we don't have to do this, then why do we keep doing it? It's like, I don't have to run into that wall, but I'm used to it, so I'm just going to keep doing it. Does that make sense? Like, come on. Is anxiety fun? No, it's crippling. I know people who can't get out of bed because they're so filled with anxiety. I know people that can't have any relationships because they're so angry with literally everything. I know people that can't function, they can't go to work, they can't go to school because they're depressed. That is probably many of us in this room.
Amen, baby.
Jesus doesn't want that. I hope you don't want that. If you do, we need to talk about some things. But that's just running into the wall every day. In 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 8 says this, "Be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour." And James says, resist the devil and he will flee from you. And here's the cool part. He says he walks around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour, like that lady's tiger that devoured her. And here's the cool part. If Jesus can work and the Holy Spirit can work in David to kill the lion that's going to kill his sheep, don't you think that Jesus, who killed that lion, can kill the big lion of Satan to defend you? And guess what? It's already been done.
Right.
So let me encourage you with this. The Bible says His divine power has given us everything we need for life and godliness. He didn't give you everything you need to just survive. He doesn't, back to other camp stuff, a few years back, the theme was thrive. And if you, Jason's got that shirt on. God doesn't want you to just squeak by in this life. When God gave the power to David to kill Goliath, He didn't just knock him out and be like, "Oh, that hurt a little bit. Come over here so I can cut your head off." And then David was done because he just stunned him. He didn't just stun Goliath, he killed Goliath. He didn't just maim him like, "Oh, it's just a flesh wound," and he's hopping around. No big deal. I'll get over it. Just a band-aid. He killed him. He needed not just to live, because guess what? Goliath wanted to kill David and then take everybody as slaves. He said, "I'm going to give you life, and I'm going to give it to you with abundance." God doesn't want you just to not be sad. He doesn't want you just to not worry. He wants you to live life to the fullest. I don't know if you've ever met anybody like that. It's almost annoying. You know, somebody who's just full of joy and they're always happy. Kind of like Courtney Morris, you know, it's almost annoying at times. She's just so happy. You know, it's just full of energy and life. That's what God wants for us. He doesn't want us to live in the shadow of our giants. He wants to defeat that giant for you so that you can live in freedom. Because guess what? When Goliath went down, guess what the Philistines did? See ya.
Yep.
They're looking for someone. Oh, he killed the dude, guys. We're done. Right? They're hiding. They're hiding from this little dude. When people see you defeat your giant, it'd be amazing. God has big things in store for you. Okay? God's got big things in store this weekend. Tomorrow morning, Rick Mack is going to speak. Yeah, Rick Mack. And then, Rick Mack is going to speak on depression. His father dealt with it. He's had some bouts with it. He's going to talk about his story and what God talks about being depressed. Tomorrow afternoon, after lunch, Scott Brown. Scott Brown is going to talk about anger. It's funny, his wife says, it took 17 years before I realized he had an emotion other than anger. So he's dealt with that. He's come through that and is on the other side of that. Sorry, Sarah, I didn't mean to call you out there. And then tomorrow afternoon after that, to close us out, my wife, Emmy, is going to speak on her battle with anxiety and talk about. Here's a cool, interesting fact. I will leave you with a factoid tonight. The Bible mentions do not fear and do not worry more than any other topic in the Bible that's ever brought up. More than be saved. More than all that stuff. 365 times. That's how many days there are in a year. 365. So one time for every day, the Bible and God says, do not fear, do not worry. And she's going to talk about her battle with that and how she's overcome that and how, what God thinks of it. There are a lot more giants than just those three. I listened to a few of them tonight. Addiction to different things. Addictions to things on your phone. Addiction to things on a computer. Addictions to substances. Addictions to cutting. All kinds of stuff. Our hope, we couldn't cover all those topics this weekend. We'd be here for 3 weeks. Let's do that. All right. No showers for 3 weeks. All right. But we want to introduce you to some things that we think are some big things that you're dealing with, and give you some tools of what God says and how we can overcome these things. And so we are really just we're going to talk about our own struggles this weekend.
Yes, sir.
Because as adults, we've been there. We are there.
Amen.
You know, when I was a camper at church camp growing up, I thought if I could just be like this guy, like Steve or Don or Fred, if I could be like those guys, someday they have it all figured out. Or like Dave Pack, because he was my counselor, you know. And like if I could just be like that dude, I will have it all figured out. Well, guess what? We don't. Not even close. Right? Here's the thing, but we've been through it. And guess what? We're still alive on the other side.
Right?
So we're going to talk to you about some of those things this weekend. Hope that God impacts you. We're super glad you're here. Guess what? This gathering is the largest gathering we've ever had even bigger than camp last night.